Very good morning to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on a Saturday morning. It's the weekend. It's always pleasant when the weekend comes, isn't it? And West Ham United have got their next friendly, haven't they? At what is it, midnight in Jacksonville against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Got quite a few of the senior players back. So let's see what kind of team Lopetegui puts out against his old team, Wolverhampton Wanderers, at midnight. I don't know if any of you are staying up to watch that. What does it cost? A fiver or something that you've got to pay to watch that game? Come on, West Ham United, and not on really, is it? First of all, with the whole fiasco going on with concession tickets, and now we've got to continue paying a fiver to watch a friendly game. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about something completely different. If you're new to the channel, please do hit the like button and please do become a subscriber of the channel. As I always say, it costs nothing to subscribe and all my content is free all the time. So what are we going to talk about? Well, about Lewis Orford. Because from the minute the news broke that West Ham had made an offer of, what was it, £32 million plus Lewis Orford in return for striker John Duran, my immediate response was, have we got a footballer at West Ham United or an academy footballer at West Ham United that's worth around £8 million? And yet he's not getting any regular game time in the senior team. You see, we know Aston Villa are not budging from their £40 million valuation of John Duran. Apparently, I don't know if you guys have seen the video, Duran doing the crossed hammer sign, etc. I don't know if that means that the deal is now done or it getting a bit closer. Who knows? I'm sure we'll find out over the next few days. But they're not budging from the 40 million valuation, or not seemingly so. So therefore, if the bid of £32 million was made, plus Lewis Orford as well, then by rights, somebody is valuing Orford at around £8 million. But who could that be? Is that Tim Steidten? Is that the board? Is that Mark Noble? Soon after the bid was announced, Sean Whetstone on X tweeted that it was actually Aston Villa who proposed that Orford be part of the deal rather than West Ham United offering the young player themselves. And his tweet said, it's Aston Villa that wants Lewis Orford included in the deal for John Duran, but West Ham did not want to lose Orford as they rate him very highly. He has a year left on his current contract and has yet to agree to extend it, so that could be a factor in the decision whether to include him or not in the deal. No agreement has yet been reached between Villa and West Ham, but talks continue. So, 1 minute we're being told that it's West Ham that have offered the player, and then the next minute we're being told it was Aston Villa who insisted on the player being part of the deal. And then, of course, they turned that offer down. So are you as confused as I am? Is it simply that even though West Ham might think Orford is worth 8 million, Aston Villa don't? If, for example, we offered, 37 million plus Orford, would they have taken that? And who was it that actually sanctioned the whole thing with Orford being part of any deal in the first place? Well, we know, we're told that Tim Steidten has now got full control of all transfers at West Ham United. So do we assume, therefore, that it's Steidten who offered the player as part exchange for John Duran? I mean, if it was him, it was a bad error of judgment, I think. Look, the thing that currently casts a shadow over the player is that he does have a year remaining on his contract, as Sean Whetstone said. And up until Friday, it was suggested that there had been no attempts from West Ham to offer any extension on that deal, on that contract. There's also been other suggestions, mainly from outside the club, that the player and his agent do not want to extend the contract beyond next year, and that he may well be looking to move on when the contract expires. So, if that's the case, is that why Steidon thought it best to recoup some money on the player? And this is where it all gets a little bit muddy, I guess. And this is where I do question whether we have or we haven't spoken to the player, the player's agent, the player's family about a contract extension. Now, the story that came out on Friday, of course, was that the club had not made an approach yet, and they had seen the error of their ways by making amends and arranging a meeting between the player's family, the agent, and the club to discuss the contract situation. So, has it taken social media to report that there was no contract extension planned for that to happen? I don't know. For those of you who may or may not be aware, Aston Villa have already had an interest in Orford for some time, and they inquired about the academy player last month in June. But that inquiry was turned down and was told that nothing was going to happen here. And we know that Monchi, who's the director of football at Aston Villa, is no mug. His scouting network at Villa is second to none. And he's demonstrated that with the transfer dealings that he's been doing. And they will know that Lewis Orford is a very talented midfielder. They will know that Lewis Orford is the captain of England, or was the captain of the England under 18s team. Sorry, not was, is the captain of the England under 18s team. They will also be aware that back in 2022, The Guardian named the player in their Next Generation 2022 article as one of the best 20 top talents in Premier League clubs. Look, Orford, he joined West Ham at the age of 5. He's a lifelong Hammers fan, as are his whole family. He has consistently achieved well above every academy level that he has played in, and first became part of the under 18s team at the age of 15. When he turned 17, like most players, academy players, he signed his first professional contract at the club. He has been likened to a cross between Declan Rice and Frank Lampard, but he's got potentially more skill than either of those players, dare I say, where he exhibits a greater turn of pace with a range of passing beyond his years that has made him the Hammers under 18 playmaker, as well as having elevated him to the West Ham under 21 development squad, where he's already made something like 32 appearances for the under 21s, scoring 6 goals with 5 assists. And his record for the under 18s is pretty decent as well, in 55 appearances, 13 goals, and 21 assists. Now, to be quite honest, for a central midfielder, that's pretty impressive. And so I think he's a more creative player than Declan Rice was at that age. I'm not suggesting for a moment that he's a better player than Rice. Well, not yet anyway. But he could become as good a player as Declan Rice, if not better, in the future. He's the epitome of a central midfielder where he can play defensively as well as further up the field. And I mentioned a moment ago about the comparison to Frank Lampard. He's the type of player where he's got the ability to arrive late on in the final third of the field to latch on to goal scoring opportunities. Although primarily a central midfielder, Orford has actually also played as a centre back as well as a striker on occasion at youth level for West Ham. He's currently out in the US with the senior squad for the Stateside Cup tournament, and along with several other academy players, he's been training with the senior squad since the start of July. Despite being just 18 years of age, he has massively impressed in pre-season so far, and he believes he's ready to play in the first team. In an interview just a few days ago, Orford did say, I think the summer's gone really well. We've been back for 3 weeks now, and I was pleased with how it went in Austria. And then obviously getting another 60 minutes against Dagenham was really positive. And he went on to say, I've grown a lot physically over recent months and in the last year. And I'm at the stage now where I think I'm ready for the first team. Now, with Lopetegui at the helm, Orford believes that the chances of getting closer to that first team action have improved. He said of the Spanish coach, "I consider myself to be the sort of midfielder who likes to play around the back and play forward. Lopetegui likes to keep the ball and switching it from one side to another, which is a big part of my game. I've got a great passing range, and out of possession, Lopetegui wants us to be aggressive, which I think suits me well. Off the pitch, I've enjoyed having chats with him and getting to know him, and I'm thankful for the chances he's given me. It's just all about taking them now." And he went on to say, "I've been working hard since I was a young boy, and the goal has always been to play for West Ham. That will continue, and hopefully in the US, I can make some more steps towards making that happen." Now, does that sound like a player that West Ham United are ready to lose in return for a player in the transfer window? I don't think so. I think the player is very highly thought of at West Ham. The feedback from the academy coaches have been giving him exemplary um, um, uh, 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 replies in terms of how he's doing. Enough for David Moyes over the past couple of seasons to have included the player in several West Ham squads, despite not yet having made his senior debut. But it is felt that that may happen sooner rather than later. You've only got to watch a brief video that was done by the BBC about the player last year, plus an interview that he had on the official West Ham United website to know that not only does he love the club, but he dreams of playing in the senior team and covets wearing the number 8 shirt, which at the moment is currently available. Here, this is the link to the 5-minute video that you can watch on the player. And also, if you want to go to the West Ham official website, you can see the interview that he did when he signed his contract last summer. So, if the club believe that he's destined for a very successful career, why would West Ham not want to extend his contract? And why would they even consider including him as part of a deal to buy another player? Now, over the years of doing YouTube, I've come to notice a certain process that seems to be adopted with academy players which kind of follows in a similar pattern. So when academy players turn 17, those that are deemed to have real potential, like I said, will move from scholarship to a professional contract, just like Orford did. And usually those contracts are set for 2 years. And in those 2 years, it's hoped that the players can demonstrate that they are capable, worthy of being able to take that step up into the senior squad through their performances, maybe in the under-21s development squad, or being loaned out to gain valuable playing experience, just like Freddie Potts did last season when he played for Wycombe Wanderers. Now, how the players do will determine whether an extended professional contract will be offered or not. Makes sense, doesn't it? In recent years, West Ham have tried to agree new contracts with players that they believed had potential, such as Harrison Ashby, Callum Marshall, Sonny Perkins, and most recently, Divin Mumbama. Of those players, the only one who did agree to extending his contract was Marshall. And Marshall committed, when he did commit to a longer term deal, Marshall was loaned out to West Bromwich Albion in January of last season. All right, that didn't work out, but the aim was to get him playing experience so he can come back to the club and hit the ground running in this coming season. Now, look, Orford is actually only halfway through the 2-year contract that he's been given. So it would be at this stage that there will be discussions as to whether to send him out on loan, keep him at the club, give him an opportunity to try and break into the first team, and then a contract extension would be then talked about. And this is where I think Orford is at. He is now at the crossroads of what happens next in his career. And look, we believe that a meeting was held, as I've said, between the club, his agent, and his parents on Friday. And I hope that's gone well. I hope that reassurances have been made as to how much we value the young player. And I hope we don't find ourselves in yet another situation that we've recently had with players like Mabama, Perkins, and others, where it seemed that agents were advising their players that they could potentially get more lucrative contracts elsewhere rather than sticking with West Ham. And given that the clubs think so highly of him, and given that it's fairly evident that Aston Villa coach Unai Emery also believes that he's a good talent to have, then surely we will do something to sort out his contract for the longer period and keep Orford at West Ham rather than sacrificing him for any other player in the future.